Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I am Gary, your host. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and then examine the stories and the art. This time, I'm going to go back to 1983 and take a look at this book here. This is Americomics Special Number 1, featuring the Sentinels of Justice. Americomics, or AC Comics, was a publisher in the 80s and into the 90s. A smaller publisher, but they did some decent stuff. A lot of their material, especially later on, involved some reprints and contemporary stuff, featuring both, featuring older characters who are in the public domain, as well as their own original characters. And they did a lot of reprinting of some of the Golden Age, lesser-known superhero characters and Western stuff. But here, in the Sentinels of Justice, I guess they had a short-lived title of their own, of the Sentinels of Justice, featuring these characters here, who were the Charlton superhero characters: Blue Beetle, Captain Atom, Nightshade, and The Question. Okay, and see in Sentinels of Justice, AC Comics, 1983, Americomics Special Number 1. Americomics, or AC Comics. They are a fictional superhero team published by AC Comics in 1983 for that brief period when AC licensed the Charlton characters just before DC bought the characters. In 85 and 86, the name, that is the Sentinels of Justice, was used again, featuring AC original characters. And in this story has the plot by Dan St. John, and the script and art by Greg Guler. I think that's how you pronounce his name, Guler or Guler. And Greg Guler has always done comics in high school, etc. But he finally got work for pay in the 80s, right here, at AC Comics, then First Comics and DC. Then in the late 80s and early 90s, he moved over to animation. And he is currently employed at the Walt Disney Company. He worked with Greg Weisman on the development of the Gargoyles animated series, and he developed some of the Gargoyles characters and other characters such as on Darkwing Duck, Aladdin, Johnny Bravo, Disney's Tarzan, and others. So he has a long pedigree, and this goes back to the very beginning of his professional career. See, and one of the neat things about all these characters is that, besides being Charlton characters, and later bought up by DC and then rebooted, because Nightshade is kind of gone by the wayside in DC, but she was a regular mainstay character for in the Captain Atom title at Charlton. But they're all done by Steve Ditko. Okay, Captain Atom. There. This is his appearance from Charlton. Originally had a yellow costume, and then later on adopted that look with the. Was it 59 or 60? I can't remember. This was even before Marvel started coming back with superheroes. It was developed. He was in Space Adventures. He eventually got his own title, done by Steve Ditko. Primarily Joe Gill and Steve Ditko, and then. Captain Atom was given a partner, another character, the female character there, Nightshade, and that's the only place I've ever seen her. And earlier on in DC, I had seen her pop up once in a while, I think, and at the time I didn't even know who she was. And then I haven't been following for the last couple of decades, but after that, she just kind of fell by the wayside. And then, of course, Blue Beetle and the Question. Okay, and this is the Ted Kord version of the Blue Beetle, who was co-created by Steve Ditko. And actually, I like this. I haven't seen a whole lot of the original Blue Beetle, but what little bit I have seen, I like the Ted Kord version better. And then DC killed him off. I think they may have brought him back again. I don't know. Things keep changing there. And but they killed Ted Kord off. Got a different version of the Blue Beetle. But I actually like. Overall, I like Ditko's work on the Blue Beetle better than I liked his work on most of Spider-Man. And then, of course, he created outright the Question. And all of these characters are now part of the DC universe. But here we have this little in-between period after the decline of Charlton Comics and before DC bought these characters, when they were basically in publication limbo. And before we take a look inside those pages, I want to let you know that if you see these character cards, are 5-inch by 8-inch character cards of various comic book characters. A lot of these are original ones here. Of course, that is Fen Fang Foom. But I can do these character cards for you if you like. They make great gifts for someone, for other fans, or for yourself. Whatever character that you like, black and white or full color, but the colors look the best. That's comic book characters, science fiction characters like Star Trek, Star Wars, etc., comic strip characters, cartoon characters, or even original characters. Just contact me there at my email address. We'll see what we can work up. Okay, there you can see that cover drawn by Greg Guler, and it looks like it's inked by Terry Beatty. It says Beatty there, from 1983. This is when I was still in the service, so I never saw this stuff. It might have been when I was out at sea, or just too many things being published at the time. So here it has a little bit of a background on the characters, and here you can see reproductions of some of the Charlton covers. I have a little background on that publication, and then you see them right there with Captain Atom, who is the powerhouse of the bunch, front and center. It starts right off with Vic Sage, who is actually the question on TV, and he's giving a news report, something about there's been a series of crimes being committed in Hub City of a technological nature. And then we see it's actually the bad guys who are watching that news report. This is the Manipulator, and he's got iron arms, and the Madmen, and what's his called? Fiery Ice or something like that. Some super villains who they're the ones who had been committing the crimes. And this guy, the Manipulator, I think he's an original character, was actually a big businessman and manipulator. Is a manipulator in the corporate world, and he's trying to take over. And he's delved into, because he wants to take total control. It looks like this may have been a lot like Lex Luthor in the 80s after John Byrne rebooted him a couple years later. And a funny thing is, well, I won't even discuss that, but yeah, it's just based on the greedy corporations and CEOs and stuff that were causing a lot of problems at the time, and still are. Then we flash to Ted Kord's lab as he's the Blue Beetle. He's being contacted and by the authorities, and he contacts the rest of the Sentinels of Justice areas as his bug comes up out of their hidden lair. They are going to want them to help catch these bad guys, and yada yada. They've gone to set up a trap. Got this new solar device will be sure to attract these bad guys, except they've got plans for a fake version. It'll be very difficult for them to tell it's fake until later, so let's try to get them in to attack, to try to steal it, and with the Sentinels there. And that's exactly what they do. They smash in, cause lots of damage, mayhem, fight. The Sentinels reveal themselves and then engage. And some nice artwork, nice clean. I can see why he later worked in animation, because he has a nice clean line style that should work well for animation. And there's in his art style is just slightly cartoony, and you can see he even re-represented the some of the Ditko style in the Blue Beetle figure, the way he moves and stuff, just as other artists did with Spider-Man. And Beetle's taken on the Madmen, who have always been his enemies. And the Question, he pops in and punching out. No face, no superpowers, just tough and with a few little gimmicks. Same thing with Blue Beetle. He relies on his own physical ability and technology. Then there's Nightshade. He could become a living shadow. And they're all taking on these bad guys. While she's dodging the ice blasts from this guy, she zaps him with the darkness. Meanwhile, Captain Atom has got his hands full with iron arms, who just seems to be a guy with incredibly powerful iron artificial arms. And then a regular old punch fest. And then Captain Atom uses his power with a fireball. It's a very extreme contrast. Nice work, job with the coloring to help depict that very brightness and high energy. Boom, boom, boom. Then have a ringer pops up, the Banshee, to help the manipulator. And he helps the manipulator get away. They get the fake plans and take off while the Sentinels are mopping up the other bad guys. And that's basically what they do. And then we see here the manipulator said, I knew it was fake. I knew the plans were fake. I knew it was all supposed to be a trap, and I sacrificed these other guys to help to draw them out, to test their mettle, because I've got a plan to destroy the Sentinels and take over, because I've got an inside source inside the Sentinels. Now what could that be? And then that comes off the screen, and turns out there's this other shadowy figure who wants to destroy the Sentinels of Justice himself. And he has been manipulating the manipulator. But we never find out what happens, because this was the last issue featuring the Sentinels of Justice. Because it mentions here how DCU just bought those characters, so they can no longer do them, and they're left on a cliffhanger. And here it has some ads. Just like show you these Blue Beetle ad. So this is we're still out there on the stands, and probably the last issue featuring them. They're probably trying to dump all the material all at once while they could. And these are their own natural characters, AC characters, which later became the Sentinels of Justice. And here's Bill Black version of the Durango Kid. I've forgotten this guy's name. Some kind of jungle girl. I don't know who he is, but some nice artwork. And Commando D. I remember seeing some of him. And then here we have house ads for their stuff. I remember Star Masters. I liked that. Night Vale. I've seen have some really nice artwork there. And I remember that cover, but I don't for Blue Beetle on Americomics, but I don't know if I've ever seen it. I actually had it. I may have, and just don't remember. I don't know. But like I said, they're trying to dump that stuff as quickly as they could, before their license was completely defunct. And then here, these are the people who then later become the Sentinels of Justice. And that's what I've got. Is some nice artwork. Nice, clean artwork. Good work on the visuals. Good visual storytelling. Better than many. Slightly cartoonishness in the stylization and the art, but not overpoweringly so. So that it still worked well for the action adventure type stuff, superheroes. And it was just an episode and an overall story arc that we never got completion of, so I can't really say how good the story or the writing was, but the characterization of the individual characters seemed to be pretty decent on the writing. Nothing over the top, nothing really outstanding, but nothing that one could say was bad either. So that's all that I've got this time for the Sentinels of Justice. Please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Do you remember these characters, these Charlton characters, in their Charlton days? Or do you remember them here in their AC days, I should say, before DC picked them up? I was always a fan. Like I said, I liked Blue Beetle. And when they went, I followed these characters early on with DC. And Although a lot of those early issues I don't have any longer, but I did enjoy them. And do you remember them, or do you have some of these old comics? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for joining me, and remember, comics are art.